there's a pattern that's used a lot in business. You may have heard of this before. It's called SMART goals, but it actually came out of the neurolinguistics training that I took in 2003, and it has literally spread quite rapidly. But there's something that we do that people in your typical business goal setting training don't do, and I'm going to teach you that tonight. So it needs to be simple. It needs to be measurable. It needs to be as if now. It needs to be realistic. And it needs to be timed.
Program evaluation.
Say what?
They do the same thing in science for evaluating programs.
Right. And neurolinguistic programming, by the way, isn't anything original. It's just stuff that works. And they went and modeled all the best therapists, all the best athletes, all the best salespeople, and they found out what are these people doing that's actually getting them the result. And then they modeled it. And NLP is a modeling process of the human way we do what we do. So simple, measurable, as if now, realistic, and time. So for me, in 2006, I taught an entire weekend workshop on just this goal setting. And we set goals for like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I set a 10-year goal. And it's 2016. And that goal that I put in my timeline, because I figured, well, I'm teaching this, I might as well do my goals too. And I put in my timeline that in 2016, my music would be literally out in the world to the extent of the equivalent of like a Madison Square Garden type venue. And when we talk about letting go of the form, I'll talk a little bit about how you can interpret whatever actually does happen as a win. And, so far in 2016, I've had almost 1 million views of my Together We Could Change the World song in various videos. And for me, that's a goal that I set showing up in a way that I didn't expect. I right now cannot fill Madison Square Garden with my name on the marquee. Not going to happen. However, almost 1 million people is a lot more than Madison Square Garden. So it's kind of like, I'll take that. That's okay. I take that, and I don't have to worry about parking or security. We're going anywhere. That's great. So it needs to be simple. So does anybody have a goal they want to? Anybody want to share a goal? Anybody? Only if you want to.
Just to have more energy. I'm sort of sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Okay. So more energy certainly is simple. We're going to call it NRG. More energy. Okay. How would you measure that? How would you know, Ed, that you have more energy?
I won't be sleeping all the time.
Okay, so you won't be sleeping all the time. What will you be doing?
Probably riding my bike more.
Okay.
And, just being outdoors more. Making stuff and maybe cleaning the apartment. The car.
Okay. So you would know you had energy because you would be actually doing things and you would notice that you were doing things. Because what we want to do, we want to avoid saying, well, then I won't be doing this as much. And that's okay to have a little of that, but we want to really always communicate to your unconscious mind what it is you actually want. Because your unconscious mind cannot process a negative. It's only, it's like a Labrador Retriever. You would never say to your dog, don't come, if you wanted it to stay. So we want to always practice, and I still practice this, representing and communicating to your unconscious mind what you do want. So instead of don't forget your keys, remember your keys, right? So good. Okay, so for me, in my physical thing, I have this squat curl press that I do. It's a compound exercise, and if you only do one exercise, this is the one exercise to do, because you're going to squat, you're going to lift something up, and you're going to raise it over your head. And that's something we do a lot in life, you know, oh, I got to get a book, you know, or I got to put something up on a shelf. This uses real, actual muscles that we would use. And I was doing it with a 25-pound weight. I know I've improved because this week I'm doing it with a 30-pound weight. Right? That's something I can measure. So you might want to come up in your mind with, okay, how far can you ride your bike today? Or is there a hill that you can't have to get off? You know, you'll know you're making progress when, well, I just rode up that hill. So your assignment is to kind of begin to find some specific things that will be kind of markers for you to know, oh, look at that. I only took one nap this week, and I did this and this and this. I have more energy. How cool is that, right? So we want somehow to know how we're doing. I didn't know if you had a question.
Oh, no.
Oh, you want to take pictures of me? Okay.
You took one too, didn't you?
I bet she did. And I'm taking pictures as well. So, and we also want it to be as if now. So, because your unconscious mind is only a present moment entity, it only knows now. You could say, well, I want to run a half marathon. And you can imagine running a half marathon, and your unconscious mind will think you just did, because it's inside. It doesn't know the difference between what is real and what's imagined. So we want to imagine stuff as if now. So,
well, one thing I'm thinking about doing on my bike is what they call a century, which is 100 miles.
right.
And so far, I've gotten to coast to Schenectady and back. That's,
Okay.
That's pretty darn good.
Sweet. I did that one day.
Took me a while. I mean,
I couldn't walk for 3 days. It's like, whoa. So that's good. So yeah. So you have different mile markers, different ways to see how you're doing. And it needs to be realistic. And this is the one I get in trouble with all the time. Like when I started the Transformation Tuesday thing at Unity, I was thinking, yeah, probably by the last one, I ought to have about, 50 to 100 people. No problem. Not realistic. It takes a while for people to change their habits and to learn about something. And, there are things that, I've heard about and I've gotten into. Well, this is great. But it took 10 years for that musician or that idea or that comedian to kind of come to my awareness. So what is realistic? And sometimes we have to have a big goal, and if we don't reach our goals consistently, then they're too big. We want to dial them in. So I'm playing right now with small goals and big goals, and to make it so that just doing it every week, that to me, wow, this is Transformation Tuesday number 12. This is the 12th one I've done. That, just numbering them, is keeping me in the game of, yeah, I am making progress. And even if I end up doing this for a couple of years and putting them up on YouTube and having the links back to my website, that will still build traffic to my hypnosis site, to my music site, to all the different other things I'm doing. So we want it to be realistic. If you were to say to me, Mark, I'd really like to become a professional tennis player. In fact, I have my eyes set on Wimbledon and Forest Hills and all the top pro tennis tournaments. And how old are you? So you're in your 40s?
40, yeah.
Okay. That's all I need to
think about it.
If you have to think about it, you're over 40.
I'm probably the youngest one here.
Yes, you are.
Probably. But the bottom line is, I would have to say that's probably not realistic. Because the kind of body you would need to be a professional tennis player on that level,
Mhm.
you needed to really start in 4th grade.
Yes.
You know? So there are some things. I probably will not be an astronaut. First of all, I'm not interested in it. Second of all, you know, I'm in my 50s. And there's some things, you know, I am not going to be a pop star. I'm not going to be performing to sold out Madison Square Garden crowds of 20-somethings. Probably not. My audience is out there, but it's probably going to be a multi-generational mix. And it probably won't even be in a music context. It'll probably be in something like a Tony Robbins, you know, mega spiritual self-help program where there's multiple speakers and I'm not the only speaker and there's a massive audience and, you know.
TED Talk, there you go. TED
Talks. All I need is an audience. You know, it doesn't have to be what I thought I wanted back when I was in my early 20s. So what is realistic? We often don't know, but that's a real key. If you're not getting your goals, you might be too pie in the sky, and that's okay. We want to go big. I would like to go big. I've been small for a long time, and it's time to expand. It's time to reach out into the world. All right. It needs to be timed. There needs to be a specific deadline. Unconscious minds are notorious for doing the absolute minimum. The absolute minimum. So, for example, you could have a goal. I want more money. That's simple. More money. Measurable. Yeah, we know money measurements. As if now realistic. Okay, fine. But it's not specific enough. Because it needs to be simple, but it also needs to be specific. And that's probably more important than simple. But so you would not say to your unconscious mind, I want more money, because your unconscious mind would say, oh, hey, look, there's a penny on the ground. That's more money. Right? It's not what you had in mind, though. There was a wild guy in the New Age community. His name was Stuart Wilde. I think he passed away this past year. And he at one point was driving around in a chauffeured Rolls Royce. He had figured out how to make money. And he had this belief that whenever he saw money on the ground, no matter how much money he had, he was not going to turn that down. He was going to accept money wherever it was. So he told the story of he comes out of the Royal Ballet. He has a very important client with him, and he's dressed in a tuxedo. And there's a penny on the ground, and it's kind of in a puddle, you know, in the gutter. And he's bending down to get this penny, you know, and he was trying to explain this to his client, but it was a good story. But the whole idea, and I shared this with my oldest son Andrew, and to this day we walk down the streets of any city, and he and I are always finding money on the sidewalk. And I've had days where it wasn't pennies, it was quarters. And I think I found a 20 one day, just lying on the sidewalk, falling out of somebody's pocket, you know. So when we really focus our minds on what we want rather than on what we don't want, it allows the universe to begin to support it. So, all right, so where were we? So more energy is a good goal, but it's not specific, right? So we want to figure out what would be specific for you, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. So, all right, and timed. Well, I'm just going to give you guys an example. All right,